Hey, Jake.
Hey, Katie.
What's up?
Welcome back to another episode of By Its Cover,
A podcast
where we
talk about
books
that we
pick out
buy.
their cover.
Yep.
We've never done that before.
No, we have never done that before.
We didn't use the word read or consume. So avid listeners that enjoy that part of our sort of intro debate, you can suck it because we didn't say it this time.
Wow. That is so nice for our listeners. We're so glad you came back.
By the way, this is a great time to remind everyone that we have a Patreon.
Yeah.
For $5 a month, you can feel good about yourself by paying for the laughs that you get on this podcast. Very on-time episodes, no breaks.
No breaks.
Every episode is absolutely perfect and perfectly scripted with beautiful audio, visual experience, so yeah, give us Patreon, $5 a month.
Great plug.
Yeah, great plug. Okay, so what is the book of the day?
Okay, today's book is The House Where Death Lives by Alex Brown. It says edited by Alex Brown. Alex Brown. My South is coming out a little.
So it was both written and edited by Alex Brown?
Yeah, that's what I was confused. It seems like if you dig into it, it seems like there are multiple authors. But also it's credited as Alex Brown when you look it up.
So, okay.
It's really like...
Maybe it's like Alex Brown got 3 friends to help write a book. And then they got 3 friends to help write a book.
Yeah.
And eventually...
There were so many authors.
They have this pyramid shape of authors. But really, Alex Brown started it and commission flows up. A very small percentage. Just a little bit flows up.
I think that if this was a scientific paper, it would have said Brown et al.
Oh, okay.
Like, there were just so many. And would you like to do the honors of describing the cover?
Yeah.
Reach.
Oh, it's so far. Ooh, okay. So, The House Where Death Lives, the cover of it, it's got a yellow background, but I think it's a face because it's got 2 eyeballs in the same tone of color. There is a house on the front that is split in half horizontally. So the roof is removed from the base, and what's holding the roof up is sort of like dead trees, like black dead trees with branches that are all squiggly and stuff. There is smoke coming out of the chimney. There are ghost hands sort of in the middle of where the house should be, but the roof was removed, and the roof is dripping some type of sludge. There's a weird ghost fish-looking thing that's sort of hanging out in the tree as well. The door has a skull on it. It says JLG Gold Standard. And there's 2 sort of like mangrove root sticking up out of the ground with creepy hands that sort of like hang like zombies.
Good job.
Did I do it?
Yeah, I think you did it. I mean, what do you think? Did you do it?
Nailed it. What is that? Oh, there's a needle and thread as well.
Oh, let me see. Okay, so... Oh, yeah, there is a needle and thread. So I did not look as closely at this cover.
You've never had to describe it.
Right, I've never had to describe it. There's also like the ghost thingies in the bottom. Yep.
Those are those mangrove things that I was describing.
Oh, those are the like cypress knees.
Like cypress knees.
Yeah.
They're the same color as the trees.
This was a really cool book.
Tell me about this book.
Okay, so it's an anthology, which I didn't know before I went into it.
What is an anthology?
An anthology is kind of like a collection of short stories, or like a collection of stories. And so this is a collection of short young adult or teen horror stories.
Okay, so the book that I have at home, that is Stories on the Open Ocean, is an anthology.
Yeah, if they're all separate stories that don't have to go together, then yeah, it's an anthology.
Okay.
Or a collection. There might be something... What was interesting is that I didn't realize until I read the description of this book afterwards that all of the stories that I listened to were in the same house. And so that's where they were kind of connected, but I didn't associate them as all being the same house when I was listening to it.
Okay, so putting 2 and 2 together, there is a universe that exists. There is a author that got together with a bunch of other authors, built an anthology where those other authors wrote short stories, all sort of in the same universe.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's what it seems like.
Okay.
Okay, it was awesome. It was really, really good. I don't know how to... Well, there's so many different stories in here. And so I probably maybe describe a couple of my favorites rather than just like every single one. So I realized it was a young adult or teen fiction book when I started realizing that every single main character was like a teenage girl.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, this is for teens, obviously.
Right.
Like they're all in high school, or all about to graduate or whatever. So I don't remember what the first one was, but there's a story. They all kind of bring in these like different cultural understandings of monsters or ghosts too, like different kinds of cultural spirits that I don't know the name of. But there was one story where like the girl she was a teen and she had a boyfriend, and the writer herself is, I think, a Filipino American woman. And so she's got that Filipino history, or background, cultural background. And she, she keeps a lot of things from her mom. She has a boyfriend for a while. And we find out through the story, like, she can't sleep anymore. And something has happened and she can't sleep. So she is having these nightmares at night, and she goes places at night around the house, finds herself in the bathroom. There's a rattle. She hears the sounds of a baby. And you come to find out that at some point she had a miscarriage, an early stage miscarriage. And she did not, bury the baby. Okay? She did not pay the respects to the baby. And so there's this, baby monster that tries to eat her in the bathroom eventually. Like, she hears a rattle, she hears a baby crying, she feels like if she could just see the baby, she could help it, and she reaches out and she actually sees the baby, but it turns around and this is this scary little monster with fangs, and it grabs onto her neck and starts trying to suck her blood or something. And then she ends up finding the rattle that she has, she never touched the rattle that she had bought to have for the baby. And so she takes the rattle out into the yard and buries it. And that's and then she comes in and tells her mom that there was a baby. And it turns out her mom already knew that there was a baby that she didn't tell her about. So that was the end of that story. But it was such a cool intro to what this book is, right? There was another one where... Oh, there were so many good ones. Let me think about what to pick for a second, because I could just keep going. There was one where... Oh, this one was so cool. So there was a teenager who was very kind of stuck up. She's talking about how good she is at babysitting, and everybody in the neighborhood wants her to be the babysitter because she's so good at it. Even though she doesn't like kids at all, she knows exactly what they want and knows how to make them happy.
Dear listener... Katie turned into a mean girl just now. Her hands were waving, her eyes were rolling, her neck moved in unhealthy ways. Go on, Katie.
Yes, okay, so she is stereotypical, I've got it all figured out.
Oh, that was, wow, mean girl, just there.
Yes. Okay, so she gets sent to babysit for this guy who lives in this house down the street. Apparently he had rolled up to the house and her parents were outside gardening or something, and they barely remember the conversation with him. It's very foggy, but somehow they realize that they've offered her to babysit on short notice for this guy that they have never met and didn't even realize he lived in the neighborhood or something, right? So she's going over there, and he's giving her the lowdown on this kid who's really kind of creepy. There's a creepy situation. So he's, here's the room or whatever, and it's described kind of like a cage. The playpen is described as a cage. There's not a lot of toys or anything like that. And she's like, well, what about the bedtime routine? And he looks kind of confused. What do you mean by a bedtime routine? She'll tell you what she wants, Very little direction or kind of caring vibe. He's like, I'll be home really late, it's gonna be late night. She's like, that's fine. He's showing her around the house, he's trying to show her, I think, where the nursery is or something, and the little girl like kind of looks at a door, and she opens it, and he's like, oh no, there's nothing in here for you, and it's just like this empty dark room of empty bookshelves, and he calls it the library, and there's like nothing there. And he leaves, and she's left with this little, I don't know if she's a toddler. I mean, she's little. I don't think that she really speaks much yet or something.
The child,
yeah. The girl's like 15 or 16. And she's watching her, and the girl wants to go into the library. And there's nothing there. So she opens the door. She turns on the light. There's nothing there. And the girl is just kind of like spinning around her. I visualized it as crawling around her in circles. But she might have been toddlering around her in circles, like toddler walking around her in circles. Sort of like
a creepy ritual.
A creepy ritual, yeah. And she doesn't really know what's going on, and then she wakes up, and her body is contorted in weird ways, and she's kind of tied up, and she notices that she's at the top of the bookshelf, basically looking down, and it reminded me of a spider, a spider, and she can see the other victims on the shelf, and so the library is the library of victims, and the guy comes home, and he said, oh, did you have fun? And she realizes that he's not talking to her, he's talking to the baby. It was such a cool, creepy story. I loved it.
Yeah, a collector.
Yeah.
Nice.
It was cool.
So you have a haunt, and you have a collector.
Yep. There was one of the last stories involved a girl who went, so this girl is in love with this other girl who kissed her, basically, and she kind of resents her for that girl using her to try to figure out her sexuality. Okay, but that girl ends up dating her brother, who is a big snob and has slept with all the girls in school or something. He's just a player.
All right.
So they end up, they're going to go on a weekend trip or spring break trip somewhere, and the car breaks down, and so they end up at this house, which is a B&B now, and the lady who's the caretaker is really doting over this guy, her brother, doting over her brother, and she really encourages them to go out to the pool in the back or something, and she goes to check out the pool, and there's a girl swimming in the pool, and it's more like a pond. And she's like, oh, I didn't know you were there. She's like, oh yeah, I'm an old friend of the family or something like that. And she's like, why won't you get in with me, And she's like, it's cold, so she wants to impress this girl because she's really, really pretty. And so she ends up dipping her toes in and stuff, and they kind of become friendly. She thinks maybe there could be something there. So then later that night, she ends up going out to the pool when she can't stand listening to her brother and her friend, her previous friend that she liked. And while she's there looking at the pool kind of around the bushes, the caretaker comes out with her brother and the girl. I cannot remember her name, but she comes out with them, and they look kind of drugged and kind of just wrong, they're being led in chains, kind of, is what it looks like. And then the girl is in the pond, the creepy girl is in the pond, and we find out she's kind of like a spirit. I couldn't tell she was a mermaid or a spirit or a ghost or some kind of, she's basically a siren maybe. The goal is to kill the guy, because she kills guys that cheat on other women. Okay. So that's the thing. So then the main character is realizes what's happening, and she's like, I don't want her to kill my brother or whatever. I need to distract her so that they let them go. And you find out she's also looking for a replacement for the old caretaker. And the vibe is that her friend is going to be the new caretaker is like what the goal is. And so she shouts out like, hey, like she's just like him. She kissed me first and now she's with him. Like she played me. Da, 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 da. And so while she's distracting them, her brother and the girl run into the house and lock the door and leave her there. And she's like, what the fuck? And the caretaker is gone and there's bubbles out of the pond. And she's like, I guess the caretaker's at the bottom of the pond, you know? And the mermaid siren girl ghost is like, why don't you stay with me? And then, so that kind of leaves it as a cliffhanger. But you know that she is like, fuck them. I'm going to stay here with this and be the caretaker of the house.
Right.
Yeah, that was a cool story.
Interesting. So it's like puppet master revenge horror.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
If the brother and the other girl had died.
Right.
Oh,
it was really, really interesting. And the last one that I'll share, there was a lot of like, it made enough to make me wonder if the author is lesbian or bisexual. There were many stories where the girl was into another girl.
It's actually a really good point. Did you assume Alex Brown was a man?
At first, when I read the title, yes.
Okay, because Alex is a gender-neutral name.
Right.
Okay, interesting.
Yep. So then I went to read about the author and read that she's a Filipino-American woman.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. There were so many authors that I read about that I was like, wait, now I'm kind of confused, but I think that Alex is the one I might be wrong, and I'm sorry if I'm wrong, Alex, if I'm messing that up.
Email us and let us know.
But one of the authors is, so the other one was like, oh, what was her name? Whatever. Okay, so the main character, girl, has had this girlfriend for a while, and she knows that her girlfriend gets really, really bored easily. Like, she has a reputation for seeing people and then dumping them when she gets bored. She also has a mother, the girl that she's dating, I think it's Charlotte or something. Charlotte's mom, for the purpose of the story, I'm just going to call her Charlotte. Her mom disappeared into the woods, and there's this like rumored mythical fairyland, like Fae, where Fae live. Mm-hmm. And she's convinced that's where her mom is. And so the main characters like, they go on this camping trip, and you're introduced to them where they're there on the edge of the woods, basically, and they can still see the town, and the main character is like, this is perfect, we can still get help if we need it, whatever. And her girlfriend's like, are you serious? Are we really just only gonna sit here and camp? Like, why aren't we gonna go into the woods and look for the fairy kingdom and all this stuff, you know? And she's like, why? Like, why do you have to be like this? She realizes, like, okay, yeah, she's really bored with me. Mm-hmm. And they usually play video games together and stuff. And the girl's like, I only play those because I thought we would do something else eventually. I didn't realize that we were just gonna keep doing that. So she's following her into the woods. She's like, oh, this sucks. Mm-hmm. And while she's looking for the circle ring of mushrooms, they run into a couple of fae. So I think they were described as like pointy-eared, kind of like trickstery. I don't think that they had like human skin. I think they had like scaly skin, but I'm not positive.
Okay.
They come upon these humans, and River is the fae that is named, and he starts kind of teasing Charlotte and like, aren't you hungry? What's your name? You know, and Charlotte's like eating these leaves, and like, just like the fae are known for like tormenting or tricking humans. Mm-hmm. And so he's tricking Charlotte, and then Charlotte like looks at her and says, oh my God, run, you know? In the meantime, this other fae named Mala comes in, and she is like beautiful, brown-eyed. I think that the main character describes her as having legs for days, right? Like, very obviously she's into this woman. And she has her knife out and gets in a fight with River or something, and then brings the main character back to this house, and they spend days together or something talking. But I think actually at the beginning of the story, she goes to the house, doesn't know why she's going there, and runs into Mala and doesn't remember. And so then Mala's like, oh, you need to remember, and she's like, how dare you take my memories from me? That wasn't yours. So then she's remembering the situation with Charlotte.
I see.
I messed up again. But you find out, like, basically she guessed what Mala wanted, which was for someone to like her and appreciate her for just who she was. Because she was kind of looked down on in the Fae community. Because her mom was different or something. It made you wonder, like, is Charlotte's mom really there, and is Mala related to her, or is that her mom, or whatever. But that's exactly what this character wants. And so they want the same thing. And she's like, well, I'll stay here and talk to you for a while, and they stay together for days or whatever. And then eventually Mala allows her to regain her memory of what happened to Charlotte. It was so interesting. Like, it was just kind of like, there were just so many good stories in here.
It sounds like it.
Yeah, there were so many.
Great.
Really, really creepy, good bedtime stories.
Well, which one was your favorite?
Oh, I really like stories that have ambiguous endings. And there was a story I didn't talk about that, I'll just talk about it. It was I think this one was my favorite. So the girl is, she's got a girlfriend. The main character's got a girlfriend who she's like very standoffish with. And every night, she's babysitting, house watching, cat watching. She's staying in this house for an extended period of time for the summer or something to care for the house. And her MO is that she throws a party every single night, because high schoolers are totally there for a party if you just mention there's going to be one. And every night she brings somebody different into her room. And her girlfriend, who she really, really likes, is like, she knows about it. And she's just like, I don't understand why you're doing this. Like, I know that you think it's your fault what happened to your sister or something, and it's not your fault. Like, you have to move on from your sister. Like, you come to realize, like, her sister is dead. And she's like, I really deserve better than this, and she says, I know you deserve better than this, to her girlfriend. And her girlfriend's like, yeah, I know, that's why I'm asking for it, right? Which I thought was a really interesting response to it. But you find out, like, she's not sleeping with them. In the meantime, at first you don't realize that something has happened to her sister, because she's having conversations with her sister, and her sister's like, when are you going to bring by, I can't really remember her name. What's her face? Her girlfriend.
I see what's happening.
Right? She's like, when are you going to bring her by? I really want to meet somebody that means so much to you. Da, 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 da. Why won't you bring her? Why do you keep bringing me these losers, And she's like, stop. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to bring her here, whatever. So then you start realizing, like, okay, her sister is dead. Her sister's like a white or a ghost or something. Yeah. And when she brings people to her room, she distracts them long enough for her sister to kill them or take their souls or something.
Right.
And then they spend the night talking to each other, and it's like her sister's still there.
Right.
So at the end, like, she told her girlfriend, like, don't come to the party tonight. Please don't. Like, I don't want you here for this party. Obviously, she's trying to keep her away from her sister.
Correct.
Because she cares about her a lot. But while she's in the room with this guy that she brought up, there's a knock on the door. And it's her girlfriend. And her sister's like, who is that? Like, I really want to see her. And she's like, no. She's like, come on. Like, if you really love me or something, you would let me meet her, blah, 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 blah. We could have so much time together, whatever. And the end is, like, very ambiguous to what happened. I think the last line was something like, if I had to do it because I loved her so much, because her girlfriend's like, you have to let your sister go.
Right.
And the last line was so ambiguous.
Which one did she choose?
Which one did she choose?
Yeah.
And that was the end. And I love stories with really ambiguous endings or really creepy endings, like the one with the girl on the shelf.
Yeah.
It reminds me, like, Pet Sematary ended really creepy with the kid coming into the kid monster coming into the house or whatever, and the hands on the shoulder, and that's the end of the story. I love shit like that.
I hate shit like that.
I know. I love it. I'm like, that's what I'm about. And so that one was probably my favorite because it was so ambiguous, followed by the one with the girl on the shelf and the spider ghost room.
How did you find out that all of these stories existed in the same house?
There was one story that made me wonder, and I cannot remember which one it was, but the rattle was mentioned early on.
Okay.
It might have been the first story. If it wasn't the first, it was the second. The rattle being buried in the yard was one of the first stories. And later in the book, there's another short story that involves, like, she's digging around outside and she finds a rattle.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, I wonder if that's intentional or not. And so
Yeah.
then while I'm listening to it, I look it up. And I'm like, oh, all of these stories are in the same house. I didn't realize that.
The house where death lives.
The house where death lives, yeah. And so it's supposed to be kind of this house where it defies like time and space and universal laws of physics, basically.
Right.
And all of these stories theoretically take place in this house.
Yeah, which is, I think, from a lore perspective, if you look at On a Pale Horse, or if you look at The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, any story really that depicts death defies time.
Right.
Right.
It was so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I highly recommend this book to anybody who just wants a bunch of short, creepy stories to listen to. Yeah, not Jake.
I don't mind scary. I don't mind thriller. I don't like jump scares.
Right.
Not because I jump, but because the jump scares feel like such an easy
It's a cheap
way, to scare somebody.
Yeah.
But definitely have loved the old Freddy Krueger, the old Jason, right? Those are...
All of those classics, I like the classics, except for Freddy Krueger.
Really?
I cannot stand Freddy Krueger.
He's a creep.
Well, yeah, he's a freaking pedophile.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gross, and I don't watch it.
Yeah, he's a pedophile that got burned. Oh, by the way, that's a... if no one's seen Freddy Krueger, I'm sorry for the spoiler.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Nightmare on Elm Street. All of them are very good. This was sort of the age the age of time, where they were using real props and CG.
Yeah.
And so
Is new.
the real props look amazing. The CG looks like trash.
Yeah. There are some really good ones. There are some really good. I generally, like you, I think jump scares are kind of a cheap trick.
Yeah.
But I like stories that get into your head and make you think.
I hate it.
I love it.
My head is my own. Don't get in there.
I like it when they're like twisted stories, or just especially when they have endings like that.
Ambiguous.
Yeah, ambiguous, or like it didn't go well at the end. Mm-hmm. Like, I love that.
Right.
Because not every story has a happy ending.
Yeah, like Final Fantasy, right? When you
I never watched any of those.
Oh.
Never played any of those games.
Sorry, not Final Fantasy. Final
No, I still didn't watch those.
Destination.
I still didn't watch Final
What was it
Destination.
called?
It is Final Destination.
Yeah. Everyone dies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Except for the last person that
there's always a
maybe
final girl.
survived, right?
There's always a final girl.
Person. I think one of them ended with a man.
Really? Yeah. Okay. Usually in horror films, for some reason, the non-white character dies first, and then there's a final girl at the end. Like, that's like a...
Yeah, and she's running away all bloody and dirty.
Right.
Yeah.
But she survived.
But she survived in her underwear. Because at some point she decided to take a shower.
Okay, one of the... Do you have a favorite horror movie?
My favorite horror movie, Cloverfield.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you watch the... was it Cloverfield Paradox or something?
No.
With John Goodman?
Is John Goodman the guy from... Oh, no, John Goodman is Flintstones.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, that one was good. I liked that one.
Okay, I'll have to watch it.
Yeah, it was... I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It was a cool twist.
I liked the Cloverfield with all the lights off on a projector, surround sound, total immersion.
Kind of like A Quiet Place. It reminds me of A Quiet Place.
What about you?
I have a few favorites. There's one called Sinister that was really, really sinister and just kind of like creepy, stays with you. Not a lot of jump scares from what I remember, but just like really, really twisted. Probably too twisted for a lot of people, I would think. And then A Quiet Place was really, really good. But there was another one, and there's a category of horror that I think is called revenge horror. I think I've mentioned that before when we were talking about Slewfoot.
Yeah, Slewfoot's like revenge horror.
I thought it was revenge horror.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was one called, oh my God, let me find I have to tell the title for sure.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to look it up. Movie where horror movie where girl ends up killing everyone. Rich people fake murder. Let's try that. It's not Final Stab. What is the name of the movie? No, I really thought that was going to be it. You know, I know somebody that I could text right now and they would.
Do you want to phone
me.
a friend?
Yeah, I'm going to phone a friend.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey, I'm on my podcast right now.
Quick.
And this is I have 30
I'm on
seconds to
podcast.
answer you this question.
And need support.
What is the name of the horror movie I'm thinking about?
The name of the horror revenge movie where the girl is a secret survivalist and kills everybody, including the cop at the end on accident. So funny. I know what the movie cover looks like. It has the mask. Like animal masks. Horror movie cover animal masks.
Another really good horror movie while we wait for your friend is Dark City. Very sci-fi horror.
Oh, I remember that from childhood. I don't remember the whole movie.
So Dark City is about a guy that starts to have...
I already answered.
What?
I told you.
What's the movie?
You're next.
Oh.
I'm going to tell him that I told my brother that you would respond in less than 30 seconds.
Okay.
You're next. It was so good.
So Dark City is about a guy that starts to have memories that he's never experienced nighttime. Or daytime?
I think it was daytime.
It was daytime. He never experienced daytime. He has memories of experiencing daytime, but he doesn't remember experiencing daytime.
Okay.
So he starts to have like conspiracy thoughts that there is no daytime.
Yeah.
And that when you go to sleep, or when we wake up, it's already nighttime, and when you go to bed, it's still nighttime, right? Or there's only a few hours that you actually are awake, right? And the rest is fabricated. And it's true. Aliens sort of control this planet that's not Earth.
Right.
That has water all the way around the city.
Like one of the snow globes.
Like a snow globe. That has water all the way around the city, so you can't escape.
Yeah.
And at night, or when everyone goes to sleep, they change the entire city with different memories and everything. They're playing with these as if they're Sims, right? And it was really cool. I don't know if it was horror per se, but it's definitely thriller. This sounds like a great book, Katie.
Yeah. I think you should read it, even though.
Okay. So what is our next book?
Our next book is one of your books. What is it?
The Pussy Next Door.
You sent me this shit and I was like, what the fuck?
I fucking read it. And I am so glad that I did. We are going to talk about this in depth next episode. Y'all, add the notification bell.
Sign up for our Patreon.
Hit that like button. Smash that subscribe.
Pay for your laughs.
Hit the follow button because next time we're talking about pussy. Bye.
Okay, bye.